It's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. We're talking basketball. We're headed to Portland, where the Blazers are hosting the Clippers. We've got a promo code for 20% off the entire site at picksandparlays.net. The code is SUPER. Clippers road favorites here, minus 3.5 on the advance line. Total is looking like 228.5. We've got the Clippers coming in at 40-19. 35, 23, and 1 against the number. Meanwhile, Portland is 32 and 24 overall, 27 and 29 against the number. And big news for this one is for Portland. No Damian Lillard, no Nurkic, and obviously Zach Collins still out for the indefinite future. So the big, gaping hole in the Blazers lineup would be Damian Lillard. We've got Kurt Alexander here to break this one all down for us. Kurt, that's a big hole for the Blazers. How do you think that affects the game, and how do you see this one playing out?
Well, I think the Blazers are still going to do what they do, and that's shoot three-point shots. I think this will be a game that Carmelo Anthony will feel free to kind of pick up the shot attempts, because they will be missing some points with Lillard not on the court. I think the Clippers are just the better team. These two teams played each other maybe a week or so ago, and I was on Portland that side. I figured you would get Dame's best effort out there. But this Portland team, they're ranked 25th, I believe, in defense, and that's just not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it against a team like the Clippers. So when you're talking about a 3.5 point spread here, I know last week I made a mention about 1 point spreads, how the games never end in a 1 point game when there's a 1 point spread, unless you're the Portland Trailblazers, because that game actually did end in a 1 point game for the Boston Celtics. And then the next game, Portland played San Antonio Spurs. That also ended in a 1 point game. So I think Portland hears me talking about them. But yeah, and when they played the Clippers the last time, the Clippers beat them by 16, 17, I believe. And the Clippers are just rolling right now. They've won 6 out of the last 7. They're looking like they're ready for the playoffs. You hear the talk from Paul George and the team's mentality, and they're just worried about their team and their focus. And I think that the 3.5 is actually kind of short. I will say this, that there was a game yesterday where you weren't sure if against the Minnesota Timberwolves, you weren't sure if Kawhi Leonard was going to be in that game. And Paul George is still nursing a bad foot. So kind of before you bet this game, kind of check for the injuries to see who's going to be in, the starting lineup and who isn't. But I think even if one of those guys sits, that they definitely will be able to handle that 3.5 against these Portland Trailblazers who just came off a tough loss to the Charlotte Hornets. So they have some things to work out there in Portland.
Right. Clippers have actually been really solid against the number in their last 10, winning or pushing in 8 of their last 10 and 3 straight unders hitting. Speaking of unders, any leanings on a total of 228.5?
Yeah, the 228.5 puzzled me there, Chelsea. You have Dame Lillard out, and like I said, you maybe Kawhi or Paul George out as well, possibly. I haven't heard anything, but this is just kind of the way the NBA has been going this year, where you hear it an hour or two before the game, like, oh, this guy's sitting and that guy's sitting, and you'll see it reflected in the numbers. So I think this 228 is just a little too high. When they played each other a couple weeks ago, there was a 133 to 116 final, but Dame did play in that game. So I think 228, I think that's a good number even to take the under, even if you could get it early before they tell you who's in the lineup and who's not in the lineup. I like the under in that game, 228.5.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our NBA talk here on Picks and Parlays. Great stuff from Kurt Alexander, as always. Kurt, thanks for joining us.